Yeah, let's go. We just gotta go hard. I go the hardest. I bring the pain. Not what you used to. It's all part of the game. Yeah, I just gotta go hard. I just gotta go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Yeah. Oh yeah, the beat's back. Adrenaline pumping through my veins. Can't relax. Original. I am not the same.
And welcome to this Friday edition of Pucks Across Borders, your daily NHL betting preview show. Good to be back. Close out the week in style. 4 games in the NHL to get through tonight. A bunch of games last night to go over. A trade to get into a little bit here, and some other things. But before we do all of that, as always, Andre, good to see you, bro. It's Friday.
It is Friday. It's good to see you, man. It's really good to see you. Ready for this weekend. I'm not going to lie.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, only an hour or so, however long this podcast is, and then it's officially the weekend, bro. So let's get right to it. Last night in the NHL, a bunch of games to touch on. The Jets beat the Bruins 6-2. Kind of sloppy game as the first couple periods went on, and then the Jets broke it open in the third period. The Wild beating the Canadiens 4-0. And I gotta say this, bro. Yesterday I made this huge stink about Marc-Andre Fleury going to Montreal and making a big deal about it, and he never played for the team. Watching the game, I kind of got emotional. I'm not going to lie. Everyone giving him a standing ovation as the game went on. He ended up, I think, with a 17 shot shutout or 19 shot shutout. As the game went on, everyone's giving him a standing ovation, and it kind of hit me in the feels, bro. I'm not going to lie. Ottawa desperately tried to lose this game against the Washington Capitals, but find a way to win. They're up 4-1, 4-2. Washington comes back in the third period, making it 4-4, and Ottawa comes through in overtime to win it 5-4. The Lightning beat the Kings. The Kings, I think you said it on the show yesterday, and I did not listen to you. The Kings can't score goals right now. Lightning 3-0 win yesterday. The Blackhawks had a pretty good hockey game against the Carolina Hurricanes, but the Hurricanes did come out with the 3-2 win. The Islanders beat the Flyers 3-0. Flames beat the Ducks 4-1. Detroit with a really, really good game, really hard-fought win in Edmonton, beating the Oilers 3-2 in a shootout. But the Blue Jackets beating Vegas 2-1 in overtime. Another really, really good game. Blue Jackets finding a way to get out of there with a win. And the Sharks. This was one of the games, bro, that I wasn't really paying a lot of attention to be quite honest. And I checked in beginning of the third period, and it's 5-1. And it's just one of those nights again for the San Jose Sharks, losing to the Kraken 6-2. Other things to get into from yesterday. There was a trade really early this morning, other things, but from last night, what caught your eye out of all the games in the National Hockey League on Thursday?
Really big wins by Eastern Conference teams that really needed them. Specifically talking about the Senators pulling out a dub against the Washington Capitals, 5-4 in OT. Especially offensively, really impressive for them to do that against that team. So kudos to them. The Columbus Blue Jackets, 2-point win in Vegas. It's a team that struggled on the road. I know the Golden Knights aren't playing the best, but it's still tough to play in that building. Columbus got it done, got 2 points, stayed ahead of the pack in the wild card. And the Red Wings playing the Oilers. The Oilers had been playing very well. The Red Wings proved that they're playing a little bit better right now. They pulled out the win there. They were down 2-0, came back, forced OT, got the OT winner. they stay 2 points back in the wild card race. So I think those three teams are particularly really impressive performances in games like that, especially when none of those, all of them got 2 points, none of those were given. Really strong night for those three.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like there's kind of lessons to be learned in all of those games, because when it comes to Ottawa, you're beating the best team in the league in the third period. They come back, tie the game, steal a point in your barn. I feel like Ottawa teams of the past would kind of cave in and just end up losing that game. And they found a way to bear down, to win, to build up the 4-1 lead in the first place. And then for Washington to come back, I felt like that was just a really big moment for Ottawa, showing that we're here. And just like, what's the word? Like resilience, right? So to me, that was huge. And that game for Detroit against the Oilers, a game against the Oilers for Detroit. Edmonton jumps out to the first period 2-0 lead. And again, you're on the road in Edmonton, down 2-0 early within the first 10 minutes of the hockey game. And you find a way to not let them score for the rest of the night and to claw back, to tie the game up 2-2 and find a way to win that game in a shootout. So that was huge for me when it comes to Detroit. And then Columbus, man, we've talked about Vegas. We've talked about how they're not really beating anybody right now. I felt really good about the +1.5. And I believe I said on air yesterday, I could be convinced of a money line play. Nobody convinced me of it. I stuck with the +1.5. But just a really, really impressive win for Columbus, especially because, as we talk about every day, this race is just so tight for them to find a way to grind out a win against one of the better home teams in the National Hockey League. Absolutely huge. So Tampa with the win, Columbus with the win. Both those teams jump up into the first and second wild card spot. Boston is out of the playoffs as we speak. Detroit 55 points, Montreal 53 points, Rangers, Flyers 52 points. Islanders 53 points, 4 points out of a playoff spot. That team just keeps on winning, and it's going to be interesting to see, because it's funny, man. I was listening to the radio today, and you and I have talked about this at length. The Islanders, I don't believe in them. I don't like this team. I don't enjoy watching this team. But it has to be said that Lou Lamoriello and the boys just find a way to get into the playoffs, no matter how bad they are or whatever. And doing it less so with usually it's like they're 500 and they have like 1,000 like loser points. Only 7 this year. Not so bad. So as much as I don't like this Islanders team, and I think that the playoffs are more exciting without them, it has to be said, this team they do find a way just to make it,
It's kind of infuriating. Nauseating is a better word. 3 straight sub 500 seasons, but look what they've done. Just made the playoffs, like you said. They still have a lot of ground to catch up. I wouldn't say a lot of ground. They have teams to pass some more, and they'd have to keep it up in theory. But they did this last year. Why did they do this? We know what's going to happen in April. Like, let somebody else get swept.
I know. But, truthfully, though, let's look at that real quick. Right now, if the playoffs started today, Toronto and Ottawa would play in the first round, which on the surface, I love it. Battle of Ontario renewed. Be so much fun. Toronto is a much better team than the Ottawa Senators are. However, Toronto can't beat Ottawa in the regular season, so I think that would be a pretty interesting playoff matchup. Florida would play Columbus, and Washington would play Tampa Bay. And I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a little bit biased here or whatever, but I feel like Florida Columbus would be a much more interesting playoff round. Oh, I'm sorry. I misspoke. Florida would play Tampa Bay. Washington would play Columbus. Yeah, okay. So maybe my point's not that. I feel like Florida and Columbus would actually be a pretty deep series. Like, I actually think the Blue Jackets could give the Panthers some trouble. I'm not saying they'd win, but I feel like just with the way that the Panthers have been playing, I feel like Columbus could give them some trouble. Tampa Bay could definitely give them some trouble, but Columbus and Washington, I don't know. I feel much better about the Capitals than I do about the Panthers, clearly, but nevertheless, Washington Columbus to me is far more interesting than Washington and the Islanders.
I think every matchup possible is more interesting than any Islanders. I'd rather watch the Sabres. So, get the Sabres in there. How far back are they now? 14.
Not far.
14 points. Let's get the Sabres.
Oh, yeah. That's nothing.
We see them against the Capitals.
Yeah, they'll figure it out. And I mean, it's funny, man, because we were just talking about this. Buffalo's playing Nashville in 20 minutes or half an hour. And I like both these two teams, man. I love watching hockey. I'll watch any game. This game, it's hard to get excited about this one. Quickly and just to kind of wrap that up, it is going to be really interesting, right? Because by the time this weekend's done, Detroit, Boston, it's just crazy how important every single game is for all of these teams chasing a playoff spot. And I gotta say, we rip on them a lot, or more specifically, I rip on them a lot. Good for the Ottawa Senators, man. They're in there. They're 1 point up on a wild card spot right now in third place in the Atlantic. They're doing it. And I think it's fair to say that this is where, whether it's in the wild card spot, whether it's in the division, this is where they're going to wrap up in the playoffs. It feels that way. And if they don't, it's going to be yet another ultimate choke job. And I hope not. I hope that this team finds a way to keep it going and get into the playoffs quickly. In the Western Conference, continues. Calgary wins last night. They're back up in a playoff spot, 57 points. Vancouver Canucks, 56 points. Big game tonight for them in Dallas. Going to be a really difficult matchup for them. And so kind of to, segue into it, I thought that trade early this morning, I think it was like 2, 3, 4 a.m., something like that, where that trade broke, was really impressive on behalf of the Calgary Flames. For those of you who missed it, Joel Farabee and Morgan Frost traded from Philadelphia to Calgary, where Andrei Kuzmenko and Jacob Pelletier. Yeah. Man, 2024-25 has not been kind to me with the names. I don't know why I'm butchering them so badly this season. But those two players going to Philly, plus a 2025 second round pick, 2028 seventh round pick. Obviously a way different trade than what we saw this time last week. However, I do feel strongly, like I did with the Carolina Hurricanes, I feel like Calgary robbed Philly here. I think this is a really, really good trade. Morgan Frost, I know he hasn't quite played up to what he's capable of, but he's really young and a really good young centerman. And Joel Farabee, man, just steady, reliable. You know what you're going to get from him. And to me, I really, really like this trade for Calgary. Like, I really do. Kuzmenko, he's one of those guys. He had 39 goals a couple years ago, and you just always hope that he's going to, find that magic again. Scratched multiple times in Vancouver, eventually traded to Calgary. We're seeing the same thing with the Calgary Flames. Losing him literally doesn't matter. Peltier, good player. He's been producing actually quite a bit. Really hardworking player. When you watch the Calgary broadcast, they rave about this guy, but he's just one of those players. Like, he's not like a number one left winger or something like that. Like, you can afford to let him go. And a second round draft pick this year and a 7th round draft pick 3 years from now, or I guess technically 4 years from now. I think this is a really, really low risk trade, bringing in 2 potentially really good pieces. And if you're Calgary, you're not really buying or selling. You're just getting kind of 2 pieces out of your lineup that you can afford to lose, and bringing in 2 potentially really good young players. And I think this is a really, really good trade for Calgary. And if we get to the trade deadline in a month from now and you realize, you know what, maybe we're better off selling, you didn't really give away, that much. And you can kind of figure something else out. But this is a really good trade, especially getting Morgan Frost. That just kind of shows your fan base, like, listen, we might not be trading for a superstar here, but we are continuing to build for the future. What did you make of the deal?
I think it's a good deal. I mean, Calgary, they needed a center. They got one. Farabee, like, neither of those guys are producing as much as they have in the past, or as much as you think they're capable of. But they're young. They're worth buying on. They needed, you're talking about Calgary, they needed some offensive help in particular. And in Frost's case, he hasn't really gotten along with Tortorella the past 2 seasons. He's a restricted free agent after this year, so you can't imagine the offer that comes his way. Cap hits like $2 million this year, so nothing crazy. I think it was a good move for them. Gives them, 2 young guys that they can keep controllable for the future. Should boost the offense, even if it's nothing crazy. And they're, with who they partnered with, Kuzmenko had a great, crazy season in it. Excuse me, I can't speak right now. In Vancouver as a rookie, hasn't really matched those highs, but he played with Michkov in the KHL. That could be a pair. They try to reunite in Philly, see if it unlocks both of them. Gives them a great duo moving forward. I know Michkov and Tortorella have had their own differences lately, but that might be something worth watching in Philly moving forward. That might be why they got him specifically. That might have been a little favor for the young rookie.
Yeah.
Peltier, young guy, he played 20-something games this year. Nothing crazy. I don't want to call him a throw-in, but I think this is, again, the Flyers are kind of in a weird spot right now. Coming off 2 straight losses, they're now towards the bottom of the standings. Granted, that can change any day. Rebuilding team, they can afford to take a step back and take risks because they're still building for the future. I know we like to say they're in this limbo where they're trying to make the playoffs, will also build for the future, but realistically, they're still building towards the future.
Yeah, and I guess from a Philadelphia standpoint, and I haven't really thought about it too hard or looked too deep into it, and I'm sure as the weekend progresses, we'll hear more about it from insiders and from beat reporters and all that kind of stuff. But from a Philly standpoint, I don't fully understand it. I don't okay, Morgan Frost and Tortorella not seeing eye to eye. You don't feel like you're gonna really make damage in the playoff anyway, so get rid of these 2 guys. A second round draft pick's not nothing, right? That's pretty good. But a 7th round pick in 2028 is relatively meaningless, like for the most part. Like, sure, don't get me wrong. I know Tom Brady was a 6th round pick. I get it. But I'm just saying, like, trading for a 7th round pick 4 years from now is not, the be all end all by any means. But from a Calgary perspective, I really, it just seems like a really logical trade from a Calgary perspective. From a Philly perspective, I'm with you, man. They're still building for the future. I don't particularly understand it. I don't see if and when the Philadelphia Flyers are strong contenders in the East. I don't necessarily see these two players on the roster necessarily. But it'll be interesting to see moving forward. Before we get into the games tonight, really quickly, bro, you mentioned this to me before we got on the air. The National Hockey League is finally raising the salary cap. This was supposed to happen back in 2020, and we all remember what happened in the year 2020. So they're finally making moves. The salary is expected to jump $7.5 million to $95.5 million in 2025-26, with a rise to $104 million the following season and $113.5 million in 2027-28. It's going to be really interesting to see what this means. It's going to be really, really. We got guys like Mitch Marner coming up off the books in Toronto. We've been talking about Rantanen. Now for Carolina, he's coming off the books. What's his deal going to look like? How much higher? Right now, Austin Matthews is the highest paid player. Leon Draisaitl next season will be the highest paid player at $14 million. And it'll be interesting to see just how quickly these salaries rise and how these contenders continue to build a roster with quite a significant amount of cap room moving forward. What are your thoughts on this salary cap rising as we enter the next few years? That's a pretty big jump, man. 3 years to go, because what is it now? 88 million to go from 88 to 113.5 in 3 years. That's a pretty big jump.
Yeah, I think it's good for the league. It's gonna, they're not gonna catch the other leagues per se when it comes to athlete compensation, but it's gonna help some of these guys make more money that they definitely deserve. It's gonna, obviously the contracts are going to increase to match the percentages of the cap, you would think, but at the same time, it does give you more wiggle room if you're not paying a superstar to fill out your roster. And we know that hockey, more than almost any other sport, it's about the team. You need 4 lines, you need 3 D pairs, you need, a good goalie, a good backup goalie. So it should help a lot in the league. It should help the players. It should help the teams. I think it's an overall positive for the league.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. All right. Before we move on to Nashville and Buffalo, puck drop there is in 19 minutes. Just another quick something to touch on. I just thought this was funny. So, Braden Saad sent on waivers from the St. Louis Blues. My mind's blanking now. I believe his contract was $4.5 million, or was it $5 million maybe? He was set to be paid for the remainder of his contract. They sent him down to the waivers, 2 waivers down to the minors. He cleared, and after they were in talks to terminate his contract, which they did. And the Vegas Golden Knights just swoop in, pick him up, $1.5 million. The guy scored almost 30 goals last year. I'm not saying what are his stats this year? I haven't even looked. I have looked, but I don't even remember as of right now. But this guy, Stanley Cup winner, 2-time Stanley Cup winner, scored almost 30 goals last year. I'm not saying he's still some superstar or nothing like that. Still a good player, in my opinion. And Vegas, of all teams, now gets him for $1.5 million. This is just what they do, man. They find a way to make it work and to bring these players in. So it's kind of a low risk, like high reward, or like medium reward. But to have a 2-time Stanley Cup champion at $1.5 million who scored almost 30 goals last year on your bottom six, really strong move for Vegas. And that just shows you why this head office, man, this team is always in the mix for anything. And it's, I don't know. I just found that really funny that, of course, Vegas was the team that swooped in and got the deal done.
They're ruthless. They're cutthroat. They make the moves. They try to win. Can't fault them for that. They're always trying.
No, 100%. All right, moving on to 4 games in the NHL tonight. Just to remind everybody, this show is brought to you by First Round Collectibles. Right now with our promo code SportsAddict, get 10% off whatever sports card you want in the entire First Round Collectibles store. They have an ongoing sale up to 50% off tons and tons of cards. And with our promo code SportsAddict, not only do you get 10% off of regular price items, but sales items as well. That means up to 60% off your order when you use promo code SportsAddict. Go to firstroundcollectibles.com today. That's the number 1, STRoundcollectibles.com, firstroundcollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans. And also, we are on Total Apex Sports live on X, as well as Pucks Across Borders on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, head over to Total Apex Sports on X, like and subscribe there, and vice versa. We appreciate it. Total Apex Sports has lots of great content coming up as the Super Bowl approaches, All-Star break in the NBA, all that good stuff. So head over, and lots of teams, making signings in baseball. So head over to totalapexsports.com and check out what they have to offer. Moving on, Nashville in Buffalo. +1. Wow. Oh, that's not as much as I thought. They're now +105. So the money's kind of shifting to Buffalo. -126 now are the Nashville Predators. -1.5 for Nashville's +184. +1.5 for Buffalo's -230. The over 6.5 -118. And the under is -104. Andre, what do you got tonight, bro? Nashville, Buffalo. What could you possibly have for us here?
I got nothing. I hate this. I hate everything about this. And we're going to have to do it again at some point this season. So that's really rough. I know Nashville, they don't really score on the road. They're coming off a home loss where they only scored 1 goal. I think I'm going to lean towards Buffalo. They do have home ice advantage. They are coming off a 7-2 win, but I don't feel good about anything here. So that's the truth.
Yeah, I mean, listen, man, I'm right there with you. There's nothing really. I guess I know Buffalo's coming off a big win, but we all know where Boston's at right now. I guess if I got to do something here, 5-5 in the last 10 games at home. They're 10-12-3. We're talking about Buffalo -15 goal differential. Nashville on the road, they're 6-15-4. 6-4 in their last 10 games, 2-game losing streak. I guess if I'm going anywhere, I'll lean Nashville here. But I got no strong plays for anything. And even in the props department, I guess, you know what? Stammer, he's doing his thing. Let me just double check where we're at here. With that, actually, Forsberg, 5 goals, 11 points in his last 5 games. Very down season for him compared to years in the past, but he is up to 18 goals and 49 points on the season. Stamkos, 17 goals. Marchessault, 15 goals. So you know what? if we're going with that, this guy, I used to love betting on him, and this year it's been tough sledding. But 5 goals, 11 points in his last 5 games. Let's go with Philip Forsberg plus 125. And on the Buffalo side of things, man, Tage Thompson, 6 goals, 8 points in his last 5 games. The other night, I know it was against a, reeling Boston team, but JJ Peterka, a guy that I was hyping up a bunch at the beginning of the season, had a tough time getting his legs under him. But Tage Thompson plus 150, Peterka plus 240. So I like those goal scoring props. Forsberg plus 125, Peterka plus 240, and Tage Thompson at plus 150. Moving on to Vancouver and Dallas. And as we're talking about this Nashville game, I'm getting some tweets coming through on my phone, and I want to open this up to a little bit of a conversation here with Andre. We did not plan on it. He's not prepped for it. So it could be a disaster, or it could be excellent YouTube content. We'll find out, one way or the other. Elliot Friedman, hearing talks are intensifying with Vancouver and the Rangers on JT Miller. We all know a trade was in talks a couple weeks ago, and that was nixed by the Rangers. No pun intended, I guess, with New York with their roommates at Madison Square Garden. But anyway, talks intensifying, Andre, with JT Miller, or about JT Miller, between Vancouver and the Rangers. Now, reports are coming in that JT Miller will be scratched for tonight's hockey game. Where are you at with JT Miller? As a fan, as an analyst, where are you at with JT Miller coming back to the New York Rangers?
He's a good player. I like the guy. Should take over, you would think, top center spot for Mika Zibanejad, unless we can, get rid of Mika Zibanejad. That's a whole nother story. But I'm all for it. I mean, what's there to lose? You're out of the playoffs right now. You kind of got some momentum back. And I guess you're technically still in the hunt, but you obviously need a shakeup still. You still have some unhappy players. It's worth taking a risk. He's a good player. A bit of a head case sometimes, apparently, but one step at a time. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, and you know what, man? To me, if this is the National Hockey League, we have all had to deal with coworkers that we don't like, and you still have a job to get done. Like, if he's that much of a bad dude that you guys can't just go out there and pass each other the puck and win hockey games, you know what I mean? That's a deeper problem than just JT Miller. So my question to you, though, man, is the reports were that a couple weeks ago, Alex Lafreniere was in the trade. How much of the future would you give up for JT Miller? I would think none, right?
Absolutely not. No. No, definitely not Lafreniere. I mean, Vancouver probably wants someone younger, someone with upside, someone with a controllable contract. At the same time, JT Miller can force their hand. He kind of has already for several different reasons. 2, you look what the Rangers are doing this year. They obviously need to, they're not just an all-in team, right? They have needs and probably need to be looking at and pushing for the 2025-2026 season. Even if they do make the playoffs, it's hard to look at this team and say cup contender, let alone cup champion, unless Igor Shesterkin drags them to the finish line, which he is capable of doing.
Yep.
But again, it's 16 wins. It's not 8. It's not 12. It's not 14. Whatever. It's 16. So I don't think the Rangers are in a position to I don't think the Rangers should give up too much of their future for JT Miller, especially since we've already seen JT Miller on Broadway.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It would be fascinating to see what type of a return you can get back for JT Miller. I mean, the guy, what was it? He got 105 points last year. 109, something like that. Like, the guy is still a very good player, underperforming this year, but it'll be interesting to see how that progresses moving forward. For tonight, reports are that he is scratched for the Vancouver Canucks. The Canucks plus 140 in Dallas. They are now plus 142. While you were talking, Andre, they were plus 146. Now they're down to plus 142. The Dallas Stars are now minus 176 at home on the money line. Minus 1.5 for Dallas is plus 154. Plus 1.5 for the Canucks is minus 192. Over 5.5 plus 106. Under minus 130. Where are you at, Vancouver and Dallas tonight?
Vancouver's been playing a lot better lately, especially defensively. They're not allowing a lot of goals, 3-game winning streak. And then you look at Dallas. Again, their defense has been, and goaltending has been pretty solid their last 5 as well, especially at home. So I think for me, I know that the total is set at 5.5. We've seen a lot of those lately, but I like the under 5.5 a lot. If you're going to ask me to pick a side, I'd probably pick Dallas 60-minute line. Still kind of meh on this Vancouver team. And the Stars are at home. The Stars have also won 3 in a row. The Stars are playing pretty good hockey. So that's where I'm at with this one.
Yeah, maybe I'm just watching too much of this team and I'm just really liking what I'm seeing. Both teams, like you said, coming in on a 3-game winning streak. I'm taking Dallas minus 1.5 here. I just trust what we're seeing from Dallas way more than Vancouver. I trust the consistency of their goal scoring, which was a huge problem in November and December, has really started to right the ship. And they've been scoring 4+ goals, multiple times now. Specifically twice against Vegas. The Vancouver defending situation, the goaltending situation, I just don't trust what I'm seeing from this Canucks team, despite winning 3 in a row. That being said, this is a really big game for them. This seems to be, it's the NHL by, what day is it? The 31st. So by, March 1st, this could be a completely different situation. It appears to be a 2-horse race for that last wildcard spot between Calgary and Vancouver, and Calgary won last night. So it's important for the Canucks to continue to keep pace and to win this game tonight. I like Dallas minus 1.5 here at plus 152. I think as far as the total goes, I could see this going kind of either way. I could see this being a 3-1 game, 4-1 game, or a 4-2 game, 5-3 game. I could see it kind of going one way or the other, but I do like Dallas. It's now plus 154 for Dallas on the puck line. Just going to double check. Ottinger is in net tonight and Demko is in net tonight. One bet that I really do like, and I had this pulled up and I lost it, but Dallas puts a ton of pucks on the net. Generally speaking, I like Thatcher Demko over 24.5 saves tonight at minus 104. Even if they lose somewhat big, even if that puck line covers, I can see Dallas putting up anywhere between 29 and 33 shots on goal tonight. So I really like Thatcher Demko over 24.5 saves at minus 104. And on the other side of it, Vancouver, for the last few years, they have not been a high shot volume team. They just haven't. Dallas, really good defensive team. Not having Heiskanen is a big deal, but they still have pretty solid defensive depth on their roster. Jake Ottinger under 21.5 saves at minus 102. That's a little bit risky, a little bit dicey, but for the under to be still minus money, under 21.5 shots at minus 102, I can see the Canucks getting 17, 18, 19, maybe 20 shots on goal tonight. So either way you slice it, I like that under 21.5. So under 21.5 for Ottinger, over 24.5 for Thatcher Demko. And on the prop side of things, Wyatt Johnston, man, coming off a hat trick the other night. I like him to score at plus 185. Jason Robertson has been dialed in over the last month. He's plus 165. More specifically, for Jason Robertson to get 2+ points, plus 255. And for Quinn Hughes to get 2+ points, he's plus 265 he's plus 265. I don't trust that one as much just because I don't really know what kind of offense we're going to see from Vancouver. However, if anyone's going to get 2+ points on the Canucks, it's going to be Quinn Hughes. He did it in the first period the other night. Just an update, another tweet coming in from Elliot Friedman. Trade call pending. Vancouver will be trading. Pending the trade call, Vancouver will be trading JT Miller to the New York Rangers. So there you go, man. It seems like before this podcast is over, JT Miller will be a New York Ranger.
There's a second time for everything, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird because, like, on the one hand, right now, like if you're asking me right now, January 31st, I want JT Miller on my hockey team. But if we're talking long term, I do think trading Pettersson would be a mistake. Trusting this guy figures it out and gets his act together. He's younger, costs more money, but I do think trading Pettersson would be a mistake. I think in the short term, you want JT Miller, but in the long term, I think they're making the right move. Moving on, and we'll keep you updated here as the show goes on. Moving on, St. Louis in Colorado. St. Louis plus 158. The Avalanche minus 192 at home. Minus 1.5 for the Avalanche, plus 132. Plus 1.5 for the Blues, minus 162. The over 5.5 minus 134 and the under plus 110. What do you feel here? Blues Avalanche. And I am like, you and I should look into this over the weekend. I am fascinated by this 5.5 total. I've never seen this in all my gambling life. So many 5.5 totals. And it's funny, there's a guy who is well known here in the Toronto area. I don't know him, nothing like that, but I commented on one of his tweets and we were kind of tweeting back and forth last night, kind of saying the same thing. Like, it just feels like teams are having a harder time scoring goals right now. Feels like goal scoring's down. Again, I haven't looked at any hard fact numbers, nothing like that, but just watching these games every night, it just feels that way. And for the totals, all these totals to be 5.5 is really interesting. But Andre, what do you see? St. Louis in Colorado, minus 192 for the Avalanche, plus 158 for the Blues.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever see a Colorado game in particular that's 5.5 again, even in the playoffs. Looking at this one, the Blues had a miserable homestand. They lost all 3 games. They lost all 3 games by multiple goals. They're back under 500 very officially now. The Avs haven't been much better, but at least they're back home. This Avs team has been better throughout the season. I trust, home ice advantage, especially in Ball Arena. So not feeling good about this game because both teams are struggling. I like the over 5.5 though, and I do like the Avs puck line.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. This feels like one of those games could be a sneaky upset for the Blues, but I am right there with you on Colorado. They lost their last game, but St. Louis is coming in, like you said, losing 3 of their last games, and I do think that is the best play here. If I got to pick a side, probably Colorado, but I do feel more comfortable just taking the over, minus 134, a little bit juicy, but not too bad. And I think I feel comfortable about that as well. The one thing I will say about this game, just pulling this up here, Cale Makar, 3 goals in his last 5 games. And for him to get on the score sheet tonight with a goal is plus 320. So that's a nice little long shot bet for Cale Makar to get on the score sheet, plus 320, scoring a goal tonight. Moving on to the last game of the night, the Columbus Blue Jackets in Utah, plus 180 are the Blue Jackets on the road. Second half of a back-to-back for them. Minus 220 are the Utah Hockey Club at home. Minus 1.5 for Utah's plus 114. Plus 1.5 is minus 140 for the Blue Jackets. Over 5.5 is minus 142. Under is plus 116. Now, Andre, call me stubborn, bro. I know the Blue Jackets just played a back-to-back. I know, historically speaking, throughout the season, they've been awful on the road. I also know that Utah should not be favored minus 220 in this hockey game. And I'm feeling rebellious, and I think I'm just taking the Blue Jackets here straight up plus 180. I think I know, like, once again, like you've mentioned this a lot. I know on the road, this Blue Jackets team is not a very good team. Got the win last night. That's a tough back-to-back, man. Playing Vegas in a hard-fought overtime game and then having to go to Utah. But I just don't trust this hockey club. And, by the way, speaking of hockey club, I meant to open up the show with this. You and I talked about this the other day. The Outlaws is back on the table. The hockey club, they're talking about how they did a survey. I think they watched our show, and I think that they heard what we were saying. Outlaws is now back on the table. And how's it pronounced? You know how this is pronounced.
Wasatch.
Wasatch.
No?
Yeah, that's now off the table. So Outlaws is back in. Wasatch is off. I'm sure you have some incredible hot takes about that. But more specifically, how do you feel about this game tonight? Am I just being stubborn here?
Maybe a little. I'm going to take Columbus puck line, that plus 1.5. I do like the odds on that.
Okay.
I don't trust Utah either. Obviously, they just went to OT and lost to the Penguins. Shout out to Chris Tang, avid follower and viewer of the show. He probably tipped off Utah that we loved Outlaws. But anyway, the Jackets, they've won 2 in a row. They, again, won yesterday on the road. They beat Toronto on the road recently, too. They kind of been back. They scored 4 in Carolina. I'm gonna trust them to at least keep this within a goal. So I'm not completely on board with you, but I am gonna lean Columbus with that plus 1.5.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Or you're right. You're almost right there with me. But yeah, absolutely loving it. Moving on to our best bets, brought to you by First Round Collectibles. Right now with our promo code Sports Addict, get 10% off whatever sports card you want in the entire First Round Collectibles store. They have an ongoing sale up to 50% off. And with our promo code Sports Addict, not only do you get 10% off of regular priced items, but sales items as well. Go to firstroundcollectibles.com today. Use promo code Sports Addict for up to 60% off your order with 10% off using our promo code. firstroundcollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans. Andre, I mean, it's 7:16, puck drop in Nashville or in Buffalo. I was wrong. That game doesn't start for another 4 minutes. So if you want to throw that in, you can. What is your best bet for this night, Friday night in the NHL?
Yeah, the thing I love the most is easily under Dallas. You look at these teams, 3 of the last 4 meetings, finished under the total. The Stars, they shut out the Blues recently. They held the Canes to 2 goals last time they were recently. They held Detroit to 1 goal, 5 games ago. 2 games against Vegas. They allowed 3. That's also a very good offense. Those are rivals. That tends to happen. Those games always end 4-3, as you pointed out. But 7 of their last 10 finished under the total. This season, they've had 29 unders hit and 6 pushes out of 50 games on the dot. So that's a nice 58% hit rate for the under. Vancouver, 3-game winning streak, didn't allow more than 2 goals in any of those games. 2 of them were on the road. They're playing a bit better lately. Obviously, we know they've had their scoring struggles, especially with all the drama in that locker room. So I'm going to take the under here.
Yeah, I love that. For my best bet, I feel very confidently about the Blue Jackets money line. But with I know that you love the +1.5, so I'm willing to compromise. Columbus Blue Jackets +1.5. It's -140, a little bit juicy. We literally just talked about this game. But I love that +1.5 for the Blue Jackets in Utah, +1.5 at -140. For a family play, are we looking at over St. Louis, Colorado? What do you think?
I was thinking that too. So let's lock it in.
Love it. All right. Over here on FanDuel, under 5.5 in Canucks Stars, -128, +1.5 for the Blue Jackets is -140. Over 5.5 in Blues Avalanche, -134. You're looking at, those odds kind of shifted a little bit, but you're looking at +429 for the parlay tonight.
Mark.
Yes.
It's time, man. Under 5.5, I have it -120 in Dallas. Jackets puck line, I have it -130. Over 5.5 in Denver, I have at -125. My parlay is +483.
483?
Yeah.
Man. Unless FanDuel steps in and starts sponsoring the show, I might have to switch over to DraftKings. This seems to be happening almost every night now.
Keep telling you it's a new year.
It is a new year. It is a new year, and it's a new JT Miller, according to TSN Hockey Insider. Also for the Athletic, Chris Johnston, the Vancouver Canucks are in agreement on a trade that will send JT Miller to the New York Rangers. Miller has already left the building in Dallas as the Canucks prepare to play the Stars on Friday night. More details to come. So there you go. You heard it here first.
Maybe the new Miller jersey. I don't think he's getting 10 back. No, definitely not. If it was somebody else, maybe, but I don't think so. I think you're right about that. And it'll be interesting to see kind of how this deal kind of breaks down. 2 weeks in a row, man. Some pretty intrigue. I know yesterday's trade, or I guess this morning's trade with Calgary and Philly wasn't like blockbuster, but that's a pretty big deal. Obviously, the trade that we got last Friday. So 2 Fridays in a row, some big trades. So we'll see how that how the rest of that trade kind of unfolds. I'm fascinated to see what the Rangers are going to be letting go of. Do you have any predictions here on the show? Do you have any like predictions on what they could possibly be sending the other way? I'm going to guess maybe Jimmy Vesey. I know he wasn't happy. I don't want him to go, but I feel like Filipino could be a part of it.
I've heard that too.
I wouldn't like that. I do love Hedel.
Oh, I just lost you, bro.
I was musing. I said maybe Hedel and VC and the Rangers did something else on top of Miller.
Yeah, I've been hearing Hurdle's name kind of tossed around too. It'll be interesting to see. Everybody, thank you so much for spending your Friday evening with us. Enjoy the games. Enjoy your weekend. First Round Collectibles, promo code SportsAddict, 10% off your order. FirstRoundCollectibles.com, ApexSports.com. Lots of great content. Check that over there. Enjoy your weekends. We'll see you next time.